All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really thought-provoking devotional from Pastor Hugh Chiang, and it tackles something almost all of us deal with at some point: workplace stress. What's absolutely fascinating here is how it uses a deeply historic biblical metaphor to address our very modern-day Monday burnout. And, the perspective it offers is incredibly interesting.
To kick things off, let me ask you something that might hit a little too close to home. If you spent your Sunday night anxiously running through how to handle a tricky client, balancing mental spreadsheets, or just dreading the morning commute, are you already exhausted just thinking about this week's work? It's a super common feeling. That Sunday evening dread is so widespread, we literally call it the Sunday scaries. But the source material we're looking at today approaches this exact modern anxiety from a completely different spiritual angle.
Let's look at Section 1, Monday's Labor and Anxiety. So let's talk about the number 6. In the devotional, Pastor Herb points straight to the fourth commandment. Usually when we think of that commandment, we just focus on the day of rest, the Sabbath, right? But it actually explicitly tells believers to labor for 6 days, meaning earthly work isn't viewed as some kind of punishment or a necessary evil. It's actually framed as a divine mandate. 6 days of effort and professional focus are quite literally built into the fabric of this worldview. The crucial point here is that working hard is totally validated. Whether you're typing away in a corporate office, managing a huge team, or out sweating on a construction site, laboring to provide for your needs is considered both necessary and holy. You earn a wage, and that reward sustains your life. So planning for your week is actually a sign of wisdom. The problem, according to the text, isn't the work itself. It's the overwhelming, paralyzing anxiety that we tend to drag along with it. Which brings us to Section 2, the lesson of the birds. To tackle that overwhelming anxiety, the text turns to a brilliant, classic object lesson from the book of Matthew. Picture the scene. Jesus is teaching outdoors in ancient Galilee, likely pointing right up at the actual birds flying overhead. He tells the crowd, "Look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them." I mean, think about it. Birds don't have complex supply chains. They don't have retirement accounts or these intricate, anxious hoarding systems. They just receive their life, their instincts, and their provision directly from the natural order established by God. And this actually builds on a much older tradition. Take a look at this ancient rhetorical question posed by God in the book of Job. Who provides food for the raven? The answer, of course, is God. The logic here is an argument from the lesser to the greater. If the Creator pays that much attention to the needs of tiny, relatively insignificant birds, He's absolutely going to care for humanity, who, according to the text, are made in His image. Now, this clears up a massive misconception, and I love how the devotional highlights this. Trusting in a higher power definitely does not mean just sitting back and doing literally nothing. Think about the reality of birds. They are highly diligent. If you look outside in the morning, they're constantly moving, searching, and gathering what they need. That's their work. The vital difference is they don't engage in anxious hoarding. They gather enough for the day and then they stop. They don't spend their energy agonizing over where next month's seeds will come from. They work hard, but without all the baggage of worry. Let's move on to Section 3, the pastor's bad friends. To really hammer this contrast home, Pastor Hugh shares a pretty funny anecdote from his own life. His church, Bipu Church, is super isolated. It sits right in the middle of thousands of square meters of farmland. Because of that, they don't have traditional next-door neighbors. Instead, the pastor jokes that they have 4 distinct categories of friends. You've got the good friends, the regular attendees, the old friends who visit on holidays, the new friends, and then the bad friends.
So, who are the bad friends? Well, the first group was actually massive packs of stray dogs roaming the farmlands. The pastor talks about nights where 15 to 20 wild dogs would chase each other around, fighting and creating this unbearable noise pollution right outside the church in the dead of night. Just absolute chaos.
But the second group of bad friends is where this story directly connects to our theme of anxiety. The local farmers, who were deeply worried about the birds eating a tiny fraction of their crops, would go to extreme lengths. Out of sheer panic, they would set off these incredibly loud firecrackers to scare the birds away, sometimes at literally 5 o'clock in the morning. Imagine waking up to that. It is the perfect metaphor. On one hand, you have the birds, just peacefully following their nature, trying to eat a few grains the earth provided. On the other hand, you have us humans, driven by this frantic, anxious need to protect and hoard every last bit of our resources. The human anxiety is so intense, so explosive, that it literally disrupts the peace of the entire neighborhood with 5 a.m. firecrackers.
It really highlights how our fear of scarcity can make us act in ways that are totally frantic, completely unlike the calm diligence of nature.
Finally, Section 4, your true mission. The big takeaway here is a total shift in perspective. While we absolutely should be diligent workers earning what we deserve, our ultimate goal cannot merely be self-satisfaction and endless accumulation. The text essentially warns if your only goal in life is just to build a bigger barn to hoard more stuff, you're falling into the exact same trap of anxiety as those firecracker-throwing farmers.
This challenges our core professional identity. You might be an incredibly successful professional. You might have killer business acumen and a string of major achievements. But from the perspective of this devotional, if that is all you are, you're missing the bigger picture. The text challenges believers to ask, are you using your position, your network, and all your skills to share your faith with your clients and colleagues? Your workplace isn't just an ATM. It's presented as a field for a much higher calling.
So as you gear up for another busy week of emails, meetings, and projects, I want to leave you with this final crucial question to chew on. Are you solely focused on personal accumulation, just running on the fumes of tomorrow's anxiety? Or are you finding a higher purpose in your daily grind? It's a pretty powerful framework for rethinking our Monday mornings. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and I hope it gives you a fresh, purpose-driven lens for the week ahead.